Can you hear me?
Oh, I can now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm just doing phone, not video.
Is that you, Russ?
Yep, that's me.
So you and I are talking to each other. I can't talk to them.
Huh. I don't have a lot of experience with this. I couldn't help you.
Well, I sure don't have it. That's for darn sure. I'll text them again.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Good.
Okay, good.
Must have been your end.
Okay, can Russ hear you too? Russ, you there?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, okay, all right, good enough, good enough.
All right.
Got it. Oh, there's quite an echo, but
Good. All right, everybody has their mics on.
I turn my mic off unless I'm speaking if you want.
No, you should be able to leave it on.
Are we ready to go? Or?
Trace, we ready? Anything else?
Yep, let me just get who's in attendance. Are you in two places then, Russ? A phone number and a login?
yeah, I got the video, your video, but I'm connected by phone for the audio.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay, I'm all set.
Okay, great. Thank you. I call the meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. on Friday, September 13th, 2024. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of August 29th, 2024. I think both Tony and Meg were here.
Move, we approve them.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. So I'm going to open the hearing for our first property, which is Lieber. The property number is 02221048.0009 Island Road. So I need the witnesses who are going to testify to swear in, which I assume are the Liebers and Russ Pogue. Is that correct? You're both going to testify? Okay. So you need to raise your hand and take the
I got it raised. Yeah.
You're raised, okay. Under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great, thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Lieber, have you received the rules of procedure for the BCA hearing so you understand them? Do you have any questions? Yeah. Before we go any further, let me introduce everyone. Tony, why don't you start?
My name's Tony Tribuno. It's nice to meet you.
And my name is John Gannon. I'm chair of the BCA. I'll see you.
Meg Streeter, nice to meet you.
Therese Lounsbury, town clerk, member of the board.
Tom Fitzgerald, member of the board.
Great. Thank you.
Russ Bowden, assessor.
Okay, great. So first order of business in this case is, do any members of the Board of Civil Authority have any conflicts of interest or have any ex parte communications with the appellants? Nope. I see no conflicts of interest or ex parte communications. Okay. Russ, do you want to introduce the property on appeal by describing the property as present valuation? Then the appellants will have an opportunity to brief us on their case.
Okay, we have a property located at 9 Island Drive. It's a waterfront property. It contains 1.58 acres and a new dwelling. That's about it.
Thank you, Russ. All right. Mr. and Mrs. Ewert, want to come up to the,
You guys want some lights?
if you need lights, let us know. It's important to be there because that microphone is picking up on Zoom.
Red means on.
Yes. So you're all set, whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Lieber. This is my wife, Annette. We are the owners of 9 Island Road in Wilmington on Lake Raponda. Thank you for this opportunity to address the board. I only have 5 minutes, and I'm going to make 5 main points. They are history, comparables, residential excess, land, and building. Point 1, history. This house replaces our long-standing family home on basically the same footprint. This is a property, the 1900 Raponda house. This is a historic property, the 1900 Raponda house, which was demolished in the 1920s. It was then a 1940s era log cabin. Annette's parents purchased it in 1963 and remodeled it in 1973 to the present footprint. Our family has been using this property continuously since the 1960s as a family gathering place, winter and summer. Ours is not a weekend ski getaway. It's not on Airbnb, and it's not a mansion. We are pleased that this board will visit our Lake Raponda home. We think you'll immediately see the decisions that we made and the values they represent. Runoff reduction to protect the lake, Vermont native plantings, solar energy, significant insulation and energy efficiency, representing values like simplicity, environmental protection, modesty, family, and love of the outdoors. Annette was a school teacher. I started my career as an environmental consultant and have been involved in local and state environmental and land use issues in Maryland. So this is a family home with a long history built to achieve simple, modest beauty. That was point number 1, history. Point number 2, comparables. The board is obligated to use true comparables, meaning Lake Raponda waterfront, and not the comps provided by the assessor among the mansions up on Haystack. I provided you with an extensive analysis based on truly comparable properties. In other words, waterfront properties on Lake Raponda. The assessor provided what he calls comparable properties that are in no way comparable. 100% of his comps are within the exclusive Hermitage Club development on Haystack Mountain. These comps are the relatively modest homes nestled among huge mansions, which is important for assessing sales values. Using Boston as an example, a 3-bedroom home in Beacon Hill or Fenway sells for much more than a 3-bedroom home in Roxbury or the South End. Applying that example to Wilmington, a 5-bedroom home within the Hermitage Club sells for much more than a 5-bedroom home on Lake Raponda. Haystack has huge mansions. A 5-bedroom home up there is modest. They are on the mountain. Some of the homes have gorgeous mountain views. They are mansions used for weekend ski getaways. So of course, those property values are inflated compared to ours. The board should not use the assessor's comps. The board should use legit comparable properties, meaning Lake Raponda waterfront, as I have provided you. That was point number 2. Point 3, residential excess. We are requesting the board to designate 1 acre of our 1.5 acres as residential excess, as was done for many of our neighbors on Lake Raponda. You have a map of our property showing this. Other than our building and a small parking area designated for a future garage, there is no area on our lot, none, to be built upon. The state made us adhere to the existing footprint of the previous house when we rebuilt. Other than that parking, the rest of the lot is wetland forest, or lakefront with no building allowed. That was point 3, residential excess. Point 4, land. The land valuation is unjustified and should be reduced. In the read ahead that I gave to you, tables 1 and 2, you can see that our property had the 4th highest increase in land assessment of all 20 comparable Raponda waterfront lots, the 4th highest increase. The range of increase was 75% to 281% higher from 2020 to 2024. I don't think anyone can explain why our neighbor's land deserves a 75% increase. That's just the land, not the building, while our land deserves a 169% increase. And some other neighbors, why do they deserve increases of 185%, 189%, and 281%? Just land in 4 years. One would think that all land on Lake Raponda would increase in value at a similar rate. The land doesn't change, the land doesn't move. And our property received the highest land valuation of any of the 20 comparable Raponda properties, including 4 with more land than we have, yet ours was higher. That was point 4, land. Point 5, building. The building assessment method used is hopelessly flawed. In tables 3 and 4 of the documentation I provided, you see that the building assessment has little basis, the comparables are all but irrelevant, and there are other comparable properties being assessed at rates below ours. We are therefore requesting a more reasonable valuation based on true comparables. A land valuation of $225,000, including the residential excess, a building improvement valuation of $785,000, and a total valuation of $1,010,000, $1.01 million. A small note as I close. I mentioned that I have served on public boards and commissions in Maryland. Annette and I appreciate the time, serious consideration, and analysis, and how this board must act in the face of public attention. So we appreciate your service on the BCA. Many thanks for your service and for considering our appeal.
Thank you. Russ, do you want to respond to the information presented by the appellants?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you want to respond to the information provided by the appellants?
Oh, sure. Okay, for starters, the spreadsheet that I submitted, the comparable sales, those I would agree aren't the best sales only because they're not on the water. If you look at the comparables, I didn't print the property record cards for each of these comparables because I wasn't going to use those directly. But if this comparable sales approach shows that the houses that were compared to their property were similar in quality and size, and so the buildings were comparable, but not the land. Typically, waterfront land is valued higher than anywhere else in town, and I hope I can show you that. So I believe these comparables are good comparables as far as the building goes, and the analysis that this created showed that the land values for the properties up in that neighborhood were valued less than theirs. So most of them, 450,000, 450,000, and so on. So the big difference is the land value. The next thing I wanted to mention was that his point in number 3, I believe, is incorrect. There is no property in town that is valued with excess acres unless it's over 2 acres. The state of Vermont requires us to create a house site of 2 acres or less, and then anything over that 2 acres is considered excess. So I double checked that to make sure, and it's true throughout the town. So there is no excess acres if the house site is less than 2 acres.
Can I ask a
as
question
far as
about
the land
that?
value,
Go ahead, Russ.
so that the suggested land value of 225,000, I don't believe is anywhere near realistic. If you look at I included the property record card for the property. Their land value has been valued at $400,000 up until the reappraisal. So in 2020, it was valued at $400,000, and then the assessments were changed in 2022 and 2023, but the land value stayed the same. One of the reasons their property went up so much more than other properties was because prior to the reappraisal, it was only valued as 60% complete. And if you look at the back of the property record card, at the bottom on the right-hand side, it shows you that it's 100% complete now. And that's how the building value came up to roughly $1 million. Now, the percent change on comparables, my comparables are actually sales. And the only way you can actually use comparables, you can't compare to, you can compare the percent change to other properties, but if the other properties didn't sell, they're not comparables. And the comparables that I used were actual sales. And again, keep in mind that the house was only 60% complete in 2023. I did find one new sale, which is an excellent sale, which I wasn't able to include. If I wasn't able to submit the property record card for it, but 118 Westlake Road, if you want to make a note of it, 118 Westlake Road, it sold in 5/17/24. It sold for $2.63 million. And the lot is actually smaller. It only has 0.92 acres. The house is older, it's lower quality, but it's somewhat bigger than the Lieber's property. In my submission, did you get a copy does the board have a copy of the map that I included?
I don't believe we do.
Just have the
If you have the map available?
I do have town view up, so that might help.
Yeah, so it's an aerial map of their property and the island that goes through their property.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna take a look at it. I'm pretty familiar with it.
Okay, well, the map actually shows the house when it wasn't even complete yet, because when the aerial photograph was taken. But so what I wanted to mention was the island property, which sold, it sold in 2015. It sold for over $1 million. And then they tore the building down and they're putting up a new building. You know, standard appraisal practices, when the land values reach a high level, relationship or percentage-wise to the value of the home, a lot of times the homes are torn down. So it's considered a tear down. So in this case, they paid $1 million for it in 2015. So it had a small, modest cottage on it, or camp, and that was torn down. And the value of that was insignificant to the value of the land. So what happens is it's considered a tear down. So in effect, that is actually a land sale. So 21 Island Drive was realistically a land sale. I looked at I looked up properties online. I looked at Realtor.com, and they had the Lieber's property estimated value of 2.46 million. Well, 2.47 million, and that's with the old house that was torn down before they built the new house. And then another company, Redfin. These are reliable estimates. Redfin currently has the value of their property valued at 1.675 million, and again, that's with the older house. Because the new house is not available yet. It will be when everything is completed, for the grand list this year, and they'll have the town's information and the town's values. I found one land sale available on the lake that it's not as a good quality of a lot, and it's on the other side. It's on Westlake 182 Westlake Road, and that sold last year for $345,000 as just a raw lot, undeveloped. And that's 1.24 acres, which is a little smaller, so basically very comparable. I'm just looking through my stuff here now. I think that should do it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do the team members have any questions?
I had a question. Yeah, I had a question about what you testified to earlier about the state of Vermont having a minimum standard of 2-acre lot size. Can you just identify where that came from so I can write it down and look it up on my own later?
Yeah, the state of Vermont requires listers and assessors to value the first 2 acres of a property as the house site.
Okay, that's an assessor's document?
Well, this has been the same for years and years and years before my time, so I'm not sure where it originally came from.
All right, thank you.
And so the actual tax billing system won't accept a house site. So if you have a lot that's bigger than 2 acres, and we try to put in a lot, say if there's 10 acres, and we try to put a house site in of 1 acre, the system won't even accept it. So it has to be, if it's greater than 2 acres, then the first 2 acres goes in as a house site, and then the rest can be valued, based on excess acres, and which is typically done. So if you look through any of the properties in town, anything over 2 acres goes into a category called excess acres, unless it's in current use, or it's classified farmland or classified forest.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you have a dock on the lake? A dock or,
Yes, we do.
and which side of the property is that on? Is it on the south side?
It's on the north side.
North side.
Where the
Okay.
cove is.
Okay,
The north side of the peninsula.
right. So you don't have, I know you have a lot of lake frontage, but you don't have anything else on the south side? Which
No,
is
because it's
the
not, most of it's, we aren't allowed, it's trees.
So I actually would like to address that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just answer the question.
Okay, thank you.
That's
Tom,
why he's here.
Tom, do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, I said I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Russ, could you just explain what excess property is with the definition?
Sorry, I couldn't understand that.
What's the definition of excess property?
It's what we classify as excess acres, anything above and beyond what's needed for the house site. So the state somewhere along the line determined that 2 acres was a reasonable area.
Okay. And so does that mean there's the ability to subdivide the property for those excess acres and that it can be sold separately?
Again, I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the echo.
Sorry. So with the excess acres, do they have to be able to be sold if the property is subdivided?
No. We're not assuming, we can't assume it can be subdivided. It's all based on zoning. In some cases, there's properties in towns where the acreage is actually a combination of multiple parcels. But in this case, this is, obviously this is one parcel. So the excess acres just goes into a different category in the computer, and it values it at a much lower rate per acre as not being buildable. It's considered excess more than is needed for the house site or the use.
Good.
All right. You want to respond?
Coming back to the lakefront question. So I mentioned that I served on a board in Maryland. I was on a commission to protect the largest river within Maryland. And the number one way that we try and protect waterways anywhere is to stop runoff from going into that waterway. And so planting trees and shrubs directly along the shore is the number one way to stop runoff from coming, both sediment and pollution. It's called a riparian buffer. That's the fancy term. You guys probably know it. So we made the decision that, so we've got a peninsula, and then there's the north side and the south side of that peninsula. On the north side of the peninsula, there's a very small amount of land. There's a dock and then nothing else. On the south side, there's quite a bit of land, but almost all of it is riparian buffer. That was a decision we made to keep it natural, again, fitting with the environment. So that's point number one about the lakefront. Point number two, that puts us right into the excess issue. I would like to know the legal citation, because that's not something that I ever came up with. I just saw it on several Lake Raponda properties. A bunch of our neighbors who have large lots, they're only paying taxes on a very, very small portion of their lot. And they've got these huge portions of forest that they're either not paying taxes on or paying at a very, very low rate. In our case, we are under 2 acres. That was news to me, that it starts at 2 acres. But again, as I testified, only half of that acreage can be built upon, 1/2 of an acre. The other acre cannot be built upon. And I do look forward to you visiting the property. You'll see it's wetland. In the new configuration of our lot, we changed from lawn to meadow in a very, very large area of the lot. Why did we do that? Because it's a wetland. If you would walk into that meadow and bend down and touch your knee to the ground, your knee's going to get wet. It's wet there. So it cannot be built upon. Plus there's a sewage septic field there. And you'll see on the rest of the lot, it's unbuildable, or the state prohibited us. We have a very large lot that could be built upon. The state prohibited us from going anywhere near the water. So it's unbuildable. And I think from a fairness perspective, I would hope that the BCA has the power to be able to consider that in its land assessment. So that's point number 2 about excess. About point number 3 about the comparables, I still maintain. Mr. Bowden brought up the Weinstein sale. That's the only large comparable lot that was there. We never knew what the what the sale was because we don't have access to the records. And so that's interesting to know. N equals 1. Okay, that's one comparable. And then the other one was $300,000. So N equals 2 now. But to bring in the mountainside properties, I mean, we just drove up there today. I don't know if you guys have driven up there. These are mansions. And to compare the modest Lake Raponda homes with the mansions that are up there, it's apples and oranges. And to compare sales and assessed value, in my opinion, is apples and oranges. Let's either look at all assessed values or let's look at all sales values. But to mix them up to me is inconsistent. And I think that's all that I have to respond, unless you had anything else. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does any member of the board of select board have any additional questions? Okay, so what we need to do now is appoint an inspection committee of at least 3 BCA members to inspect the property at a date and time set by the chair, and report its findings back to the BCA. So there's 4 BCA members present. Do we all want to participate in the inspection of the property?
Yes.
Don? Yep, you're okay. Excellent. So the inspection team will be made up of 4 people: Tony Trippiano, Nick Streeter, Tom Fitzgerald, and myself, John Dan. Oh, 3, forgot.
So busy.
I thought I would, since we're kind of stretched for bodies, that I would kind of go, and then I'd be like an alternate if anything should
Okay.
happen that someone can't make it.
All right. So now we need to set a date.
So we will, well, is this going to be sometime in the next month or 2?
Soon, really soon.
Yeah.
Can't do it tomorrow.
So from our perspective, tomorrow would be
I
the
can't,
best.
I can't. But soon.
So we have to have another hearing to resolve this matter within 30 days. So the inspection has to occur.
Yeah.
Before that hearing.
Tomorrow would be the best from our perspective because we're here.
They can't do it.
They can't do it tomorrow, is that?
That
what-
was-
Okay,
We'll figure it out.
yeah.
Well, we're leaving on Sunday for a few weeks. So we won't be there, but we have somebody open the house. for you.
Actually, that would be better because we're not allowed to have any communications with you.
Okay.
at the property.
Yeah, so we'll just have somebody
So
show
if you
you.
give us the time and the date, we'll make sure that our caretaker will be there to open the house.
Okay.
Would that work for you?
Yeah. That'd be perfect.
I got the calendar out. You tell me when you want to go, please.
Well, we should get it done as quickly as possible.
Monday?
I can do it Monday.
I have nothing scheduled.
Yeah,
for
Monday would be better because
Okay.
I'm out starting the 18th.
Great.
What time?
Anytime will work for me. Does anybody have any time constraints? Tom, how are you?
So, no, what date are you talking, John?
Monday.
Monday, the
16th.
Monday's perfect. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, is there a time that works better?
10, 9,
Either. It's good.
6:42?
Anything's good for me.
Let's pick 9.
Okay.
That's all right.
9 o'clock.
9 on Monday
At the site.
at the site.
And we'll find somebody to let you in at 9.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Perfect, perfect.
Thanks,
Good night.
folks.
Right now.
Okay, so we recess.
We need a motion?
No, we're just
No.
recessing
We,
to a date and time no more than 30 days.
well, you can wait to recess after you hear your second hearing, because
Okay.
normally we recess 2 weeks out to hear, planning to hear inspection reports in 2 weeks,
Okay,
or whatever's heard tonight.
okay, then we'll wait on that one. All right, then, I will open Kimball, you're going to testify with respect to the AW Realty properties, is that correct?
That is correct.
Anybody else?
Is anyone else testifying?
I'm joined with Lynn Bacosi, who may be asked to provide some sort of ancillary information from actual walking the property.
And I'm here as an attorney, just as a backstop in case a question comes up that requires my expertise, like the 2-acre homestead, on which point your lister is absolutely correct.
Well, thank you. So, Mr. Kimball, we can do this in one of two ways. We can go through each of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different properties individually, or we can combine some of them if you would prefer.
So I think it's probably easier if we combine and remove the ones that that we are no longer contesting. I just want to say, first of all, thank you to the board for allowing the late entry. Bit of a mail issue with some of the hurricanes in Houston, where the mail for AW Realty is received, and also, Russ, the time that you spent with another AW representative, Allison Kimball, in sort of explaining and walking through this, and to Sarah Cosiella for your time in researching some of the properties.
Did you say some of these have been withdrawn, or is the list?
Yes, we are accepting. So because there was a very limited time frame to deal with some of these.
Okay.
We did list them all, but I can tell you that we are really only talking about 3 properties. So I would submit for the record that we are going to accept HS Saddle 000, which is item E on the agenda.
Thank you.
We are accepting item G, which is HS Deer HI.000. We are accepting item H, which is HS Partra.000. And we are accepting item I, HS Maple V.000. While those valuations appear to have been based on a $1,500 per quarter acre lot evaluation, we accept that. Given the current situation, I would point out a couple of things about the overall East Track in general.
Hold on 2 seconds. We have to screen before you start testifying about the individual properties. I was just narrowing down how we want to handle this. So now we have 3 properties. We have Sunset, Quaker, and the airport. Do you want to testify individually about each one of these, or do you want to combine them?
Let's go. Let's go individually with the airport first, and then we can talk about the issues with Sunset and Quaker are identical.
Okay. Great.
So
I have to do a couple of things before you can talk.
Okay.
So I am going to open the hearing for AW Realty 00202049.000 airport. So I need Mr. Russ has already been sworn in. Mr. Kimball, you're going to testify. Ms. Bacosi is going to testify too. Lynn, maybe.
Yeah. So let's go with yes for right now.
Okay. So I need you to raise your right hands and take the following oath. Under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Have you received a copy of the rules of procedures for the BCA hearing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do any BCA members have any conflict of interest or had any ex parte communications with respect to this property?
No,
I had worked for one of the previous owners up there, I believe. Lynn could probably identify that better. I used to work for the Hermitage Club. I don't have any information or perspective on it, but I got to identify that I worked up there.
Anything else? Okay. Russ, do you want to introduce this property on appeal, describing the property and its present valuation?
Okay, yeah, we can start out with the Airport Road, 4 Airport Road, which is a commercial property. It's 19.94 acres. I estimated that about 1.25 acres are being used for the runway, and the rest is classified as commercial excess acres. There was no recent sales. And basically the improvement value or building value is basically just the runway, which is basically paving.
So
That's it.
So thank you. So my understanding, Russ, on this property, from discussions with Allison Kimball, that there was a homestead assessment included with this property that was inadvertent.
That could have been, yeah, it's been corrected, I believe.
Okay, so
It's all non-homestead, it's all commercial.
okay, so that was the issue. If you've corrected that, we accept that with the non-homestead clarification.
Tax, there's a different tax rate for non-homestead versus homestead.
Yeah, but am I correct? At one point, there was a homestead valuation that had been attached to it.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, so there was, that had been worked out. Just information for the board. This is just a clarification that was done.
If the homestead was on there on the original tax bill, we would issue a revised tax bill changing the homestead to non-homestead.
Okay, thank you. So that brings really the only two properties that I'd like to testify about, and those are the Sunset and Quaker parcels. And we can
So,
do them
Mr. Kimball, you're withdrawing your appeal of the airport property, correct?
based on no homestead inclusion on that property. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let me introduce the other. Whoops. That one's not working. No, that's not working. That is dead.
How about the one behind you?
Well, yeah, we can do that. Thank you. Okay. All right, so. All right, so let me open the hearing on the next property, on
So we're saying withdrawn on the other one, correct?
the
The
airport
airport,
property,
right.
which is J on the agenda.
Thank you.
So that brings us to AW Realty, hssunset.lnd, open land. Okay, everybody's been sworn. Russ, do you want to introduce this property?
Let's see, I don't have the property record card in front of me. I was trying to connect to the PC in Wilmington, but I wasn't able to connect.
All right, well, we don't have the information. We do have the card in front of us. It is a undeveloped piece of property. Its 2024 revaluation was 286,500.
47.75 acres.
Yeah, 47.75 acres. All right, Mr. Kimball.
So you
Well,
have,
Well,
I
excuse me.
don't have, I don't have Sunset I have Sunset at 19 acres.
Really? Hold on, let me look at Town View.
I can help you with that. It is the higher acreage, but that land is a very steep embankment. And I believe from what Allison sent me, the tax valuation is based on a map that was given to or recorded in the town records in 1971. And it was for 191 units to be put on that property. And my understanding is that it was 191 times the price per lot that they used on the rest of the development. Russ, is that correct?
Yeah, so all these properties, even the ones that you withdrew, they're all done the exact same way. So it's
Well,
kind of a
No,
legacy.
no, they're not done the same. The other properties are surveyed, marked, quarter-acre lots. I can show you the pins. Sunset, Quaker, no pins. If you look at what was filed at the town or recorded at the town clerk in 1971, it shows a bunch of, you can call them condos, townhomes, multiple unit dwellings. And there are 0 markers out there on those 2 segments of development. And I can tell you from walking that property, there is no way the state's going to ever allow anything to be built for sure on Quaker, for sure.
We're on
And
Sunset.
okay. A lot of that would not be able to be built on. And they would never allow the 191 units. I think where the disconnect is, and no, not trying to be smart here, but you're using data that was submitted to the town in 1971, and then you're applying it to the taxes. I guess we could make you a deal. If the state of Vermont, if you can get permits, Russ, for the 191 units, bring them on. Then I guess probably the tax rate would be fair.
Okay, well, like I started to say, this is a legacy development. And unfortunately, that property, all these properties are mapped. And if they're mapped, unless it's removed from the map, we valued them all the same way. And so even though the ones that you withdrew are all done the same way by the number of lots. So some years ago, going back to, I think prior to 2009, before my time, the lots were valued at $500 each. And that's the way it's been done and recorded, for all these years. What happened in 2020 was the state said the town didn't raise the value. And the state told the town that they had to change the values because there was a reappraisal done in 2020 and the values still stayed at $500 per unit, per quarter acre. So the state said that the town had to correct it. So the values haven't changed. I agree with you, they're not buildable lots. In no way they're buildable lots. The problem is what's on record and what's deeded. And if the map shows these individual lots, we have to value them the same way all the other ones. So I included with my submission, there was 5 sales. 2 of them were exactly $1,500 per quarter acre lot. And then there was some that were purchased through tax sales. And so we had, up until this reappraisal, we had no evidence of what they were possibly worth. And then the fact that some of them sold as individual lots, that was the best indication we have of what we could use for a value, a market value. Well, I would agree. We just have to go with what's on record, what's on the deeds, and what's on the maps. If these parcels that you're still appealing, if the maps were corrected and the deeds were changed, then we could value it a more appropriate way.
Well, I would respectfully disagree. The key issue here is what is the property worth, not what it's historically been valued at and not how you've historically valued it. I'll also venture that none of the quarter acre lot sales you're talking about were sold in either Quaker or Sunset. They were sold in one of the other properties. The other properties were surveyed and have subdivision permits that go with them. Quaker and Sunset, there's no subdivision permit, and there's no legal creation of these lots other than an incredibly informal map submitted as somebody's pipe dream as to what they might develop in the future. So using that map to say that there's 190 lots on this particular parcel, it simply doesn't work. This should be valued as one large parcel, undevelopable, as basically forest land, comparable with other forest lands, because you couldn't locate a house site anywhere on this, on one of the properties, and on the other, if you can locate one or two, you'd be lucky.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. The problem is I just have to live with what it's how it's been done, and the lots are identified in the grand list. So if
That doesn't mean it's right.
well, that's true. No, if it's resurveyed and the map is corrected, I'll put another value on it.
Russ, I
These
think
lots were
you're-
never surveyed. There is
They
no
were never
survey that showed
surveyed.
these lots.
Well, how did they ever get a map? I
If
just
you
don't
look
understand.
at if you look at the map that goes with this property, you can tell it wasn't surveyed. It's just a hand drawing.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where the drawings came from. All I know is if you go on Town View, the mapping system for the town, those lots are identified.
They're not
Well,
lots.
I know they're not lots. They're identified on the map. So maps need to be corrected. Something has to be done to correct it. As the assessor, I can't do that.
The key issue in front of the board is what is the fair market value of the property? Not how they've been historically valued, not what the map shows, not what the deed shows. It's if tomorrow this property were put up for sale, what would it sell for? And it seems like you're admitting it could never sell for what you've got it valued for. And that's what the DCA is here to determine. What is the fair market value of the property?
If these are one parcels, then, and they would have to be evaluated as to whether they're buildable or not, and how much, if there's a house site or not, or whether it's all excess acres, it's all woodland or whatever. But again, it's only fair to all the other properties that everything be done the same way.
We're allowing the process to be used on the other properties, not because we believe it's correct, but because we believe it comes up with a value that's close to what is reasonable in real life. And therefore, that's why we withdrew those properties. We don't see a point in pursuing them. Doesn't mean we condone the methodology. Recently, someone tried to move forward with one of these properties and said, we can change these lots and you know, we can't, the state said outright, you can't, you're never going to build on a quarter acre lot in the state of Vermont at that density in this area and get it approved. It's never going to happen. Even with an existing Act 250 permit, they were denied the right to develop the property, even when they were combining some of these lots. So to say these quarter acre lots are viable is just a fiction.
Well, I'm not saying it's viable. I'm saying we had to try to come up with some reasonable way of value them, and then the 5 sales indicated that even though they're not market sales, I would agree they're not market sales. A couple of them are tax sales, but a couple of them that the Vermont the BT Golf bought they bought them from individuals and they paid $1,500 per unit. So that was the
Okay,
only,
so hang on, let's back up, Russ. Now you're comparing, not even apples and oranges. The ones that VT Golf bought are on the backside of hole 11 off of Man Road, okay? And that's true, okay? These lots, are you aware, Russ, that you have zero access into any of these properties? Are
I
you
understand
aware?
that.
What's that?
I agree.
Okay, so
There's no
that's not comparable to an overlook property. And the ones that were purchased in this area at tax sale was me buying for A&W because they're trying to get all of the property so that there's not a scattering of other owners, so that they can maybe do 50 houses in there. I mean, the state of Vermont's never going to let that amount of houses go in there. I mean, here's the thing. You can't have it both ways. You can't tax it like it was subdivided and the state never allow it. You can't have it both ways. The town and the state both can't have their cake and their icing, because the two don't align.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're not being taxed as viable lots. It's just kind of just using the sales, like I said, that were there. I had to try to determine a fair estimate of what they might be worth. But obviously, $1,500 doesn't buy you a buildable lot.
Can we be very clear on the record that the lot sales you're talking about are not associated with either of the properties currently on appeal?
Oh, yeah, I don't have the map in front of me, so I would agree. You know, if that's
All right.
if that's the case, I agree.
No
But
lots
I
have been
don't-
sold out of either of these properties because no lots have been surveyed, no lots have been subdivided, and no permit exists that would support the existence of a subdivision on these properties, much
But I
less a
think-
survey.
But you, as the owner now, I think you would be responsible for trying to get the maps fixed. And if
The
the maps
value
are
isn't,
fixed,
the value is based on what the property would sold for, not on a map from 1971.
I have to deal with
Okay.
what's recorded. The deeds are there.
All right. I think at this point, we'll go to BCA questions. So the first question I had, just to clarify the acreage of this property, is the lister's card says 47.75 acres, but when I pull it up on Town View, I'm only getting 19.1 acres. Can someone explain that distinction?
Not me. I can't. I don't have anything
I
in
have
front
the
of me.
same, I have the same issue. I was unaware of the second number. I pull up the 19.10. Len, you seem to know something about that discrepancy. Is that?
So let's start with what Russ and those guys see on their town view map is not what you and I see on the one that the public can access.
So if I look at the Vermont State Parcel Viewer, I see 19.10.
Well, there's a lot of parcels. Vermont map is totally inaccurate, because what happens is if the state of Vermont requires us to to combine for tax billing purposes only properties that abut each other. So if you have contiguous properties, so if you have 10 lots and they're all contiguous, the map will show one lot according to Vermont, because the state says the town is required to combine them for tax billing purposes. So they'll pick one lot and they'll take the ID from that one lot, but it'll value anywhere, any number of properties. So the state requires us to combined for tax billing purposes, not merged, just combined for tax billing purposes. So the property owner gets one tax bill. So when you go to the state maps, they're wrong because they don't show any inactive parcels. So you can't use the state map.
We can't use the state map.
No, not for,
Do we have a tax
can't.
bill for this particular span number that would show the number of acres?
Yeah. Oh, the tax, we don't have the tax bill in evidence
For which one?
for this, for Sunset.
I,
We
I
have
have
the
a-
listers, we have the lister's card. And I will say, just so I'm looking at Town View now, the Sunset property is one large piece. When you go to some of the other properties where the appeal has been withdrawn, you can see the various lots, you can see proposed streets or roads. But with respect to Sunset, it's just one large parcel.
I have the Sunset tax bill up here and it says 19.1 acres. That's what you've got on the tax bill.
Okay.
yeah, but that may not be correct.
So this is not a 40-acre lot. This is a 19.1 acre lot.
The lister's card has something different.
The lister's card's different.
Yeah, and it says a 19.1 acre lot valued at 286,500.
Could you repeat that, please?
The
286,000.
value is 286,500.
Yeah, that's on the property card.
Isn't that achieved by 191 units at 15?
That's how
Right.
they get to that number, but I'm just telling you that this is the value and it says 19.1 acres. That's what we got on our tax bill.
But according to what was in our system, again, I didn't create it, I just inherited it. If it says there's 191 lots, and I just accepted that, I didn't do any research to determine.
I wonder if you've merged this with one of the lots that we've withdrawn.
No.
75 acres.
So I went to the town offices and I tried to do it with Sarah, but she didn't have anything to come up with it, other than she kept telling me there was 191 lots. So I went downstairs and saw the brains of the operation, and they came up with this map, two partial map that is recorded in the town clerk's office. That is like a townhome. I don't know if you can see what I'm showing you.
No, we can't.
Yeah, not
It's
clearly.
a town, it's a drawing that, it's kind of like he said. Somebody took out a napkin in 1971 and drew up that they were gonna put some roads in and that they were gonna put some townhouses on that piece of property. And there is 191 townhome units. That property is not subdivided. That property is not into lots. There are no markers. It's never been subdivided into quarter-acre lots. It's one parcel of land, period, end of story.
I have a quick question, may I?
Yes, go right ahead.
Lynn, you say you got that in the town office?
I did.
What was it doing there?
It was in the records.
Town
That-
clerk,
Someone,
Land
I-
records.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote up something on on a napkin and then,
No.
Okay.
It's like an artist rendering. So
Okay.
when they initially
it's
were
just
planning
information only,
to
not
create,
approved.
right, it's not a legal survey.
Thank you.
It's what I would call an artist rendering of the developer's plan for the property.
Okay, thank you both.
Yeah, so I agree with what you're saying, but we just need to fix it.
well, who's we? How does it get fixed?
Well, I have to work with the town and determine, and whatever information you can provide, because now you're the owner, and we should clarify it and correct it.
Okay, well, I think that's a great start. And B, I think that you should at least look at environmental impact studies that have been done on the property.
And I think my client would be willing to state on the record that we would never argue that we have the right to build 190 units on this property. I mean,
That is correct. I would state that we do not have right to build 190 units on that property.
Okay, so if it's up to the board, if they want me to look into it and update the data in the system, get the maps corrected, then we can get an appropriate value on it.
Okay, I think that would be a good idea. So I think what we'll do with respect to this hearing is continue it.
And send him a written message of what we want.
Yeah, well, we're directing him to look at it.
Okay.
But I think we need to continue the hearing and see if, how the map is corrected and whether,
So when do you want to continue it?
we're still under a 30-day timeline.
If you need more time, we can work with you on the timeline. We can agree to it. And I also want to go on the record that we don't believe a site visit may be necessary, and we'd be willing to waive that if that becomes an issue down the road.
Okay.
That's your 30-day clock is on inspecting the property.
That's on inspecting it.
I mean, you can hike up in the woods and see it if you want to see, but I don't think you're going to learn much from trying to walk around this parcel.
No, I understand that, but I think we're obligated to do an inspection.
Yes.
It does not necessarily need to be a lengthy inspection because there is no building to look at and count rooms and wonderful things like that.
There's also no road, and it's not going to be easy to find.
Well, it's near the airport, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
There's wetlands, there's brooks, you're talking about some heavy duty slogging.
Well, we just need to see the property, not
I
the
am
entire
I will
37 or
personally,
19 acres.
I'll personally bring you to both pieces, but you're gonna have to go about it by two different ways. And you tell me when's good and I'll bring you there.
All right.
Do we have a budget to parachute in?
Funny.
Aerial photography.
So
You could do a drone trip.
Yeah, you can do a drone.
You say there's two pieces of property. I'm only seeing one on Town View. So
No, so the other property is, we haven't actually, officially addressed, but that is.
the other property. Okay.
That's
All right.
Jess Quaker.
All right. Sorry.
So you have to decide when you want to continue the hearing, which would place Russ on a deadline for his
When's our next meeting?
reviewing this. We
That I'm gonna
meet
be at.
again on Wednesday, the
Not
18th.
the 18th. I won't be here.
Okay,
So,
so then it's Wednesdays from then on out.
okay. So
Every Wednesday we get together.
okay. Then the next Wednesday.
Would be.
Hey, John, you just made up,
25th.
John, I won't be here next Wednesday either.
Okay. So good. So we're not continuing it till.
Okay, yeah, so
Next
let's
one
do
would
it
be
the week after. The other
Next
thing is
one would
too,
be September 25th.
Okay.
Bologna.
and just also for the record, I think a lot of us who have been around here a while, certainly Meg will know, that the Haystack and the way that they sold this off and the way they divided it up, and of course with the East Track, and we were going to have 2,200 units here back in 1970. And that's why we built a new elementary school back in 1970. And some of those units and some of the areas out in the East Track were individual home sites and others were townhouse sites. So the townhouses were done in larger chunks, and the townhouses were then combined through the court system, even for taxation at that time. They set up what's called the Townhouse Trust. And they so this way here, they would just tax the trust, because you did not own a lot if you bought into those lots. You actually, not lots, that area, you bought a percentage that you were going to buy should they ever build a townhouse. So it became this. Now understand something. The two gentlemen that set all this up, their name was Hart and Sprague. They fled to Europe when this whole thing went bankrupt in 1974. So yes, Russ is stuck with a lot of very bad information here at this point when you get out into the East Track, especially. The East Track is, I never thought they would ever do anything with it, but hey, so it goes. But yes, but so Russ does have a chore in front of him, just have to take a look at this stuff. But I certainly can understand what he's going through, because it is an astounding situation with the haystack people and how they're doing. Anyway, so
Great. So we'll continue the hearing to September 26th.
25th.
25th. Thank you. So now we have the final property, which is AW Realty HS Quaker .LND, which is open land.
10 acres.
10 acres. Mr. Kimball, do you want to?
Okay, so we are in agreement on the 10 acres. So our card shows the same on that, and we look like the valuation there was done on 100 lots.
Because we're back to this drawing. There are no lots. It's the same story. There are no lots. This is the thing that was filed at the town clerk's office for 100 units, townhomes to be put. They're not in lots. It is not subdivided in any way. There are no stakes, markers, nothing. And the entire thing is unbuildable due to wetland.
And all of that is 100% true. My only point here is if we're all in agreement, we weren't even in agreement on what the acreage was for the last parcel. I think we're all in agreement. This is 10 acres. So if there's 100 lots on 10 acres, that's 10 acres per, 10 lots per acre.
Houses.
No.
10th. Well, yeah, it's bogus anyway. So, yeah, so this just has to be corrected also.
There you go.
All right. So we will continue this hearing until September 25th, 2024. And hopefully this will resolve it. If it doesn't, Mr. Kimball, you can present testimony. An important thing for us to know when we continue the hearing is what value you believe both of these properties should have.
We would present that.
Okay.
And thank you for your time. We agree that this is a challenged property, and our intention is to try to bring this in as a community asset in some way in the future. Which is a challenge.
So we just need to schedule an inspection. As I said, these should be very quick. I'm not even sure how we get to this property, but
Helicopter.
Where is that one?
Your old arc.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think you can get to it.
When would you like to do it?
Well, we're meeting on Monday at 9 for a Lake Raponda property. We could do it maybe at
10:15.
10:15.
Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meet where?
Oh, I can't wait to tell you. Let's start with the first one. And
Meet at the airport?
no, we're gonna go. The airport one is no. Go up to Bozo's on Old Ark,
Yeah.
Okay.
and there's really nowhere to park except in a
Road.
V. Yeah, that's going to be the best place to
Okay.
get you to the Quaker property.
Walter, I don't need to be part of this. I'm going to sign off.
Okay, thank you very much, Hans.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
All right. So we meet at Old Ark.
Old Ark, Monday, 10:15.
Yes.
The end of the road or the beginning of the road?
Yeah, something like that.
The Quaker property starts up, go past Bozo's, and then where it goes to, God, I should remember the guy's name. Hang on.
Buckley.
No, not Buckley. Buckley was on the left. He's
Foster?
where the old lodge was that burned. I've done so much research on this. I could give you a town history.
Jackie
Go-
C?
Foster?
Just go up. Oh, no, you're way past Bossert's.
Okay.
Jackie Carroll?
Okay, Pack and Jackie Carroll's old driveway,
Up on the left.
all the way at the end. I don't know what number it is.
The last one on the left.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I would tell you, probably if everybody just parks just before they have the sign that says it's a private road, I think that probably makes sense, because if we all go up in there, we're gonna get, you know,
Stuck.
yeah, I think that the only place that we're gonna be able to park where we can all park is, where Cassanoff's house, you know what I'm saying, in there, where it goes off, goes off in a bunch of directions.
Okay.
All right.
I'll follow someone there.
Yeah, yeah, right. We'll follow Tony.
So for clarifications, we can do it later. When this hearing comes from Russ comes back, I'll be out of the country. Should I go on this site visit as well? Or do you have 3 people that are going?
Tom's going, I think.
I'm going.
So
Yeah,
can just.
okay.
I would say you could go because you have heard most of the testimony.
Yep.
And you would have
Okay.
gone on the inspection, which means you could participate in
on
the
that.
deliberation for the
Yeah.
decision.
Be happy. Okay, I won't be here when the decision's rendered
Okay.
That's fine.
or discussed again.
Yep,
All
that's
right.
fine.
Okay, so and then we'll go that was the Quaker,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to Sunset
Yes.
after that, or as
Yeah,
close. as
so,
we can get.
so 10:15, right?
Yeah,
Old Dark Road,
15
10:15.
Monday.
Yep, sounds good. See you then.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everyone on the board.
Thank
We
you,
you.
Walker.
appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
you.
All right. So now I recess.
Yes, we,
I move to recess.
Do you need me anymore?
No, I don't think so. Thank you, Russ.
Okay, thank you.
you're gonna
Tom, you want to
recess-
make a motion?
I would say you're gonna recess until the 25th.
Okay.
So moved.
All right. All in favor?
Before we do, is the site visit some part of do we recess until the site visit or no? Just until we're sitting in this room?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just checking.
All right.
Did you second that, Tony?
Yep, sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'm real happy that Haystack has been the bane of my life, I think, since I've lived in this town. I mean, I've worked for them for years too, and it just hasn't gotten any easier.
All right. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Oh, no, we're recessed, so we're not adjourned. Yeah, all right.
Second.
So we're done.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.